Good morning, everyone. We are back, now testing two different products. Previously, we had just finished a series of the LCD1 versus the cheaper Rane Commercial RH50, and now we are doing something similar. We are comparing a $300 USB DAC, the Audioquest Cobalt, versus a $100 Chinese DAC, the Ikko Zerda. Zerda! Why Zerda? The reason is very simple, because even though I think that the Cobalt is the best USB DAC that Audioquest makes, it is by far not the best DAC available. In fact, for $300, Audioquest charges you an arm and a leg for a product that underdelivers and performs just like a lot of other products. You can say a lot about the build quality for the Cobalt, that it's made of metal, that it comes from a US manufacturer, that they have a good reputation, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, that's only going to carry you so far. You are getting a leg up for all those factors, the build, metal body, not necessarily the build here because that wobbles, and it wobbles for a lot of people, the 3.5mm jack. So the build, the name, only takes you so far. It might get you 5 feet ahead. It will not carry you through the whole race, which is why products like this, the Zerda, are worth your consideration. Now, we had compared the Cobalt versus the monolith USB DAC, which has a lot of additional features that this Cobalt doesn't. And it comes in the same form factor, just a little bit taller. It doesn't have the same build, so it's cheaper build, but it costs $100, and saving yourself $200 from the Cobalt. Well, now we have a different form factor, but it does essentially the same thing for $100. So the Zerda has a lot of very interesting features that Audioquest will never include until you're begging them and they feel as if they can ding you with some of their products having these features. So the Zerda has a 3.5mm jack with an optical out. So when you plug this in, there's going to be a red glow in there, and that's the optical. So you can in fact take an optical cord, plug it in here, and plug it into some other optical device that you have. It also doubles, as I said, as a 3.5mm jack. Now this thing comes in two flavors. You get the USB-C version, and you have the Lightning version. The Lightning version is for mobile use with iOS devices. So if your mobile iOS device has a Lightning jack, go ahead, you can use this. No drivers needed. Same thing with the Zerda. I plug this into both my Mac and my PC, and no drivers needed. It just is recognized. The Zerda has the ability to play PCM 32 bits up to 384 kilohertz, which is DXD, by the way. It can also play DSD up to 128. This thing cannot. So overall features, here's the things that I think the Zerda has over the Cobalt. The form factor, I think, makes a bit more sense, especially if you're in a laptop environment, because plugging this into your laptop directly is, you can chop that thing off and you're going to be in a world of hurt. Very angry with yourself or whoever else accidentally chopped this off. Whereas this, you're going to have a hard time chopping this off because it already has that cord. Now, maybe this is a minor thing for you. You don't care. It doesn't affect your life. I understand. But this is a constant danger, whether or not you know it. And this at least tries to sideline that danger by having this additional cord length separating the actual connection from the DAC itself. That's number one. Number two, this has the optical function if you think that you need that. Number three, it has better sonic performance, on paper. Okay? So this provides greater resolution on paper than the Cobalt does. Now, at the end of the day, can you hear a difference? And the answer is very simple. No, you cannot hear a difference. Which is why, if you are faced with a question, should I get the Cobalt at $300 or should I get the Zerda for $100? I don't think that's really a question. I think that you should just think about the fact that they sound exactly the same. And this cost $200 cheaper. And it's made of metal. Oh, and they also say that the cord's made by Monster. Ugh, name-dropping Monster in 2020. Not that relevant anymore. But regardless, this thing has the same type of build quality as the Cobalt. Except for the no wobbliness. See, what happens here is that this is actually all the way flush. The 3.5 millimeter jack, it's all the way flush between the two halves of the casing. So this doesn't wobble at all. It can't because it's being pinned down. This, however, is not completely flush. And in fact, you can watch this wiggling up and down in here if you pay close attention. You can see it. I can feel it wobbling up and down. This doesn't wobble because it's completely flush and sitting all the way attached to the housing around it. So significantly better machining process and building process for the Zerda. Whereas this, it feels like they just kind of slapped it together. What it looks like with the Cobalt is essentially, so they have the board and then they created the board and they had this back end. And so they inserted the back end here. They slid it into the rest of the casing with the board. And then they probably snapped it on or they glued it on to keep everything together. But nothing here is actually built into the housing like it is on the Zerda. So that 3.5 millimeter jack is attached to the board, but it's not attached to the back plate. The back plate is just kind of sitting around it. That's what it seems like to me. And apparently the people who are having issues with this product, they're suffering the same thing that I'm suffering, which is wobbly knobbly here. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to talk about the sonic character. I told you it sounds exactly the same, which it does. And we're going to go through the test real quick. But let's assume for a moment that you do not have a USB-C port on your computer. PC, Mac, doesn't matter. You don't have a phone that has USB-C. How are you going to use this? I mean, do they have a USB-A version? They don't. But you can get an adapter. And I've tested this. This adapter will in fact work perfectly fine with the Zerda. And the adapter that I have used, and I'll link it at the bottom of the video, is this. Oh, get out of the way. It's the Electop USB 3.1 Type-C female to USB-A male adapter. 2-pack, so you get 2 for the price of 1. It's $9. Now, not all USB-C to USB-A adapters are built alike, and I want you to be absolutely sure which one you're going to buy, whether you buy this one or something else, because this one is guaranteed for speeds up to 5 gigabits per second. And not every USB-C to USB-A adapter will give you 5 gigabits per second. You can get 2 gigabits per second on some of them, and it doesn't make sense to do that, because if you can buy the higher resolution adapter, you should just get the higher, not resolution, but higher bandwidth adapter. There's really no price difference here, maybe $1 here or there, but frankly, just spend the $9 and get the one that guarantees you up to 5 gigabits per second. So what I do is I just plug this thing in and I plug it into USB-A port. 3 or 2, it doesn't matter. Or you can just plug it into your USB-C if you have a USB-C port. All right, so we're going to plug this in, and you see that the red light just comes on because it's being recognized. Then I can plug in the Cobalt here, and you can see it's being recognized as well. And if we go into our sound devices here, in a moment we'll be able to tell that both DACs are actually connected, and the Ikko comes up first. I know you can't see this on the screen, but it's showing up. Ikko comes up first. And then the Cobalt is here somewhere, all the way at the bottom. So both are recognized. Now, initially in my unboxing, I had told you that I had to plug and unplug the Zerda because it simply wasn't able to stay connected to my Mac when I had the Cobalt, the monolith USB DAC, and the Zerda connected all at the same time. The Zerda would get kicked off the connection for some strange reason. That's not the case with PC, so it seems to be a Mac issue. I don't know if it's because of a DAC driver that they're using, that the Mac is recognizing, or because Mac is simply stupid in that regard. I don't know. But I have a multitude of DACs. Look at this. I have a multitude of DACs connected to my PC, and it works fine. So you don't have to worry about that. But frankly, I don't think most people are going to do A and B tests. So I have both products plugged in. I'm going to use my A/B switch here, and A is going to be into the I hate doing this because every time I plug it in, it feels like this is going to snap. A is the Cobalt, B is Zerda. Okay, so both are plugged in. We can go A and B. The headphones we're using for our test are these. Ugh, I love these things. These are fantastic. This is the Sennheiser HD 800S. Fantastic headphones, 300 ohm. Now, Zerda says they can drive, not Zerda, but Ikko says Zerda can drive up to 600 ohm headphones. This is 300 ohm. I don't think a whole lot of people have 600 ohm headphones, so let's just take, no, let's cut this in the middle. And we're going to use 300 ohm headphones. Let's see how hard both devices can drive this particular pair of headphones, okay? So we're going to put this on. We have the Cobalt first, so we're going to connect to the Cobalt. Somewhere. Here it is. Okay, now we're connected to the Cobalt. We're going to switch to our test playlist, and we're just going to play a song. Now, before we start, we need to make sure our volume is not going to kill us. I'm going to leave volume at 100% on system, and I'm going to control volume through Spotify. I know some people get upset about that. That's too bad. So I've got volume just below 50%, so probably around 40% here, and I'm just going to play a song here. Let's play Sun by Sleepy at Last. And 40% volume, roughly, easily drives the HD 800S. Let's increase to 50%. And 50%, it's clear, no distortion. And in fact, at 50%, this is the volume I would sit on my sofa, put on my headphones, just listen if there's no noise or anything around me. You're sitting there reading a book, working on your laptop, whatever. This is the volume you should listen at. So 50% on Spotify, 100% on Windows, so basically 50% volume. Let's take it up. Let's go up a little bit louder. Let's go to 75%, and that's really loud. I can barely hear myself speak. Let's bring it back down to 50%. Let's talk about bass. So let's go to Pure Water by Mustard Amigos. 50%, this particular song usually requires more volume, so let's take it up to 75%. And with the HD 800S, you don't get that real bass response because the 800S doesn't provide bass. No, it provides bass, doesn't really provide bass. Okay, so we know for a fact that the Cobalt can drive the 800S, even with hard to listen to songs like Pure Water that requires more volume just to kind of get the song going. You can go up to 75% roughly, and it sounds perfectly fine. Now let us switch to the Zerda. And where are you, Zerda? I have so many devices. Sometimes, here we are. I can't find them. Zerda is currently at 50% on volume, so I'm going to increase to 100% on system volume. I'm going to bring this back down to about 40% here on Spotify. We're going to go back to Sun, and here we go. 40% sounds no different to me at all from 40% on the Cobalt. I'm going to increase to 50%. %50 volume sounds exactly the same as 50% volume did on the Cobalt. This is, as I said, this is the volume I would sit and just relax and listen to music if there's no other distractions going on around me. Okay, let's stop. Let's go to Pure Water. And we're going to remember, take it up to 75% so that we can get that music going. It sounds exactly the same to me as the Cobalt. I don't hear any additional emphasis in anything. I don't hear a bass bump. I don't hear mids bump. I don't hear any change sonically. The bass response is the same. The volume is exactly the same. Okay, so while we're on the Zerda, let's go to Flight from the City, and I want to listen and try to figure out if there's any difference in detail retrieval between these two DACs, okay? Using the same headphones. Here we go. We are currently on the Zerda, and 75% is exceptionally loud for this song on the Zerda, so I'm going to bring it down to about 50%. Now, at the very beginning of this song, there's somebody moving on the piano bench. You can hear the creaking. That happened around 2 seconds. I heard it. The piano sounds very natural, smooth. I don't hear any distortion. I don't hear any noise. Okay, now let's switch to the Cobalt. Make sure Cobalt's 100%. It is, and 50% here on Spotify. And let's restart the song. Here we go. Volume is exactly the same. There is no difference at all. Piano has the same tone to me, as far as I can tell. Sounds just as smooth on the Cobalt as it did on Zerda. I don't hear any harshness, no distortion, no noise. I hear the same amount of detail as I did on the Zerda. Okay, so let's pause it. I'm just going to sit here and listen on the Cobalt for any noise or distortion. Increase the volume to 100% there. I hear nothing. I'm going to switch to Ikko Zerda. That's switched. I hear nothing. Now, these are, excuse me, these are 300 ohm headphones. So if there's any distortion or noise, it's going to be impossible for you to hear. But if you hear any noise in any of these DACs, you're probably using an exceptionally sensitive IEM, and that's not the DAC's fault. That's really just because you mismatched the DAC with the headphone that you're using, the earphone. Okay, so overall, what do I think? Look, I've done this test over and over again, repeatedly, and I can tell you now without any hesitation that the Zerda sounds exactly the same as the Cobalt. There is no sonic difference here whatsoever. Now, you might say to yourself, why would I buy from Ikko and not from Audioquest? There are a multitude of reasons why you shouldn't buy from Audioquest, but my primary concern is the price tag. $300 for a USB DAC that has been and continues to be beaten by cheaper products that are $200 cheaper than this thing. And I'm still confused why Audioquest thinks that this should be priced at $300. It doesn't provide the functionality of a $300 amplifier and DAC. It can't play DSD. It doesn't have stellar build quality despite the metal body here. It doesn't provide any sonic benefit that the other devices we've talked about also cannot provide. So ultimately, the Cobalt is a decent device, and it's good if this is the type of device that you want. You're okay paying $300 for this. I can't say there's any fault with it other than that issue with the build. But if you want functionality for your money and bang for your money, then the Zerda and the monolith USB DAC clearly beat the Cobalt. Now you might be asking, which one of these two would I recommend, the monolith or the USB or the Zerda? Well, I think that comes down to your form factor requirements and whether you want the plastic build or you want this metal build, whether you want it kind of hanging out like this or you want the USB stick type of format. Other than that, there's no sonic difference. Because there's no sonic difference, there's no sound difference between the monolith and the Cobalt. There's no sonic difference between the Zerda and the Cobalt. Consequently, and also because I tested this in the review, in the unboxing, there's no sonic difference between this and the monolith. So I'm fairly impressed with Zerda. I think that it's an exceptional device, especially for the price. They give you a lot of functionality that the big boy doesn't even bother. It's currently available on Amazon if you are interested in looking at it. There are several reviews about this product, but I emphasize this in my unboxing. Those reviews really are not particularly good Because there's some people who say that Zerda can't even drive headphones. Well, we just drove the 300 ohm 800S. So yeah, you got to be careful where you go for your review information, because people who are saying that this is only for IEMs are gravely mistaken. And there are people who say that this makes your music sound warmer, which is absolutely not true, because we tested this. The Cobalt has a more neutral, more lean sound signature versus other DACs. And the Zerda sounds exactly the same. So the Zerda doesn't add any warmth. It doesn't sound warmer. The people who are claiming that it does, I think, are using headphones that are warmer, like the Meze 99 Classics. Okay, have a wonderful week. It's Tuesday for me. I have the rest of the week to go through. Ugh. But, hey, look, if you were thinking about the USB DAC, here you go. You got another option. One more option against the Cobalt. And hopefully now you have an easier decision to make in the future. Take care. Hope you have a wonderful week and a fantastic end to your week and a great weekend upcoming in a few days. Take care.